This is the family tree of Kurt Cobain, American musician, songwriter, and vocalist of the band Nirvana. So we'll start with him. Born in 1967 in Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., Kurt comes from traditional families. He was the first son of his parent and the first grandson of his paternal and maternal grandparents. This caused him to be raised in an overprotected and overstimulated manner, which is why he developed a passion for music and the arts in general. His life took a radical turn when at age 9 his parents divorced. Kurt isolated himself, was ridiculed, and began to hate everyone. Had an imaginary friend named Boda who gave him comfort and told him to do mischief against those he hated. This made his adolescence problematic, moving from house to house of relatives until he ended up living with some friends who supported him to form a band, which would later be called Nirvana. The producer who hired them to record an album did not expect much from them, but their song Smells Like Teen Spirit, when presented on MTV, made the album sell more than 500,000 copies in 10 days, which made famous the style of music grunge, which means filth. The vocalist of the band Green River baptized the movement. It's not punk, it's not rock, it's a pile of filth in 1988. And it all ended in 1994 with the death by Kurt's suicide, who left a letter dedicated to his wife, his daughter, and his imaginary friend, who accompanied him until the end. Donald Cobain, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1945, father of Kurt Cobain, worked as an auto mechanic. After meeting Wendy, they got married and moved into a house. However, his addiction to sports betting led to financial problems. In addition to being a mechanic, he worked at a lumber yard and a mill, where Kurt also worked with him. Wendy Friedenberg, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1947, mother of Kurt Cobain, married Donald Cobain at age 18 in 1965. Kurt was born in February 1967, and 2 years later, Kimberly was born. She was a strong-willed woman who, despite financial struggles, dedicated herself to raising her children, dressing them elegantly, and protecting them. When Kurt turned 9, she divorced Donald and left with the 2 children. A year later, she obtained legal custody, kept Kimberly, and left Kurt with relatives. Wendy struggled with alcoholism. Pat O'Connor, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1955-2017, Wendy's husband. Wendy married Frank Francile in 1978, a marriage that lasted very little. Wendy then met shipper Pat O'Connor, with whom she had a third marriage, financially stable but with problems of alcoholism and violence. However, Wendy had a daughter with Pat before divorcing again from a fleeting marriage. After Pat's marriage, Kurt distanced himself from his mother, seeing her only sporadically due to the failed marriages. Kimberly Cobain, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1970, Kurt Cobain's sister. 3 years younger than Kurt, she was the person he loved most, along with their grandmother Iris. She says they were happy until their parents divorced in 1976. After that, she lived with her mother and saw Kurt only on weekends. Kurt protected her even from fame. Nirvana fans didn't know he had a sister until after his death. She appears at events honoring him. Kurt was the first person she told she was a lesbian, and she was the first person Kurt told about his drug use. Together with their mother, she turned Kurt's childhood home into a museum in his memory. Jenny Westby, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1947, Donald Cobain wife. Donald married Jenny in 1977. She had 2 children from a previous relationship and had a third child with Donald, Chad Cobain, born in 1979. Donald gained legal custody of Kurt, who was already troubled, and kept him for 6 years. Eventually, Donald told Kurt that if he didn't want to work or study, he should enlist in the army. Kurt refused and left to live with friends. In 1991, in Seattle, Donald, Jenny, and Chad reunited with Wendy, Kim, and Kurt backstage, the only time Kurt's entire family was together, along with Courtney Love and their daughter. Chad Cobain, Aberdeen, Washington, D.C., 1979, Kurt Cobain's half-brother. He had little contact with Kurt, who only saw him as a baby, and again at age 13 in 1991 in Seattle. Due to the tension of that moment, Chad is the most distant and quiet member of the family and does not participate in tributes to Kurt. Brian O'Connor, 1979, Kurt Cobain's half-sister, born from Wendy's third marriage to Pat O'Connor. She is the most media-exposed Cobain after Kurt. She is a musician and became known for her 2004 relationship with Jack, son of Ozzy Osbourne. She only met Kurt as a child and has a close relationship with her niece, Frances, Kurt's daughter. Courtney Harrison, San Francisco, 1964, Kurt Cobain wife. Known as Courtney Love, she is a composer and lead singer of the punk band Hole. She became famous for her beauty, which led to roles in 2 British films. She later formed Hole. Her childhood was similar to Kurt's, with divorced parents, step-siblings, and a diagnosis of autism. She had social difficulties and worked as a dancer in gay clubs. She met Kurt in 1989 in Portland after a concert and married him in 1992. Frances Bean Cobain, Los Angeles, 1992, Kurt Cobain's daughter. She was famous from a young age as the U.S. government threatened to remove her from her parents due to their drug use. She lived with Courtney Love's sister until late 1993, when her parents regained custody. In 1994, they relapsed into drug use, ending with Kurt's death. Frances has worked in film but turned down the role of Bella in the Twilight Saga. She had several relationships and in 2023 married Riley Hawk, son of skateboarder Tony Hawk. In September 2024, she had her first child, Ronan Walker Cobain Hawk.